It's your favorite hour of the week. We are going over the Week 10 power rankings. Who is going to meet Florida State at the top? There are a couple names, a couple people still in the running. We'll talk about all of those teams and why some should really just hang it up.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download, subscribe to the pod on our YouTube page where you can join our community and talk to us because we certainly talk back. But you can always tune in for our power rankings, for our picks, our pick'ems, all that fun stuff as we get through the week. Happy college basketball day. I know it's not going to be a lot of that conversation here on today's show, but you know, there are some head scratching close ones. And of course, there's always your ones that you want to give away. But either way, exciting times for ACC, both men's and women's basketball to kick things off. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Kenton, how are you feeling about these power rankings?
I'm feeling great about it. I'm feeling great. We're going to repeat some of the phrases that you've heard before, but it's with good reason. These teams have not changed drastically from last week. However, certain folks need to stop adding us for a while, if you know what I mean.
I feel like the heat is going to come either way, but we have to do the show, so here Absolutely. It goes. Let's start out with the one who clearly doesn't get the memo that, you know, football season is here. Maybe they're getting ready, excited for basketball season. Syracuse sits at the bottom still, trying to find more than one ACC win, but really just getting the paperwork ready for Dino at this point.
Listen, the paperwork is not just ready for them. It's got a signature on it already. They're processing it through the system. You know, HR takes time. They take time because, I mean, at the end of the day, that team cannot keep anybody healthy. If you are wearing an orange jersey this year, don't worry about it, brother. We got some crutches for you. We got a limited edition neck brace for you. We got a good old injury report for you that keeps growing by the day. I mean, for Christ's sake, this is like the MASH unit over there, just injury after injury after injury, and that's why they are where they are.
1,000%. And I think it's just like some years you get the bug, but it culminates into just what's been a very long journey to get here in terms of letting Dino go. Maybe overstayed his welcome. Is that the right phrase?
Yeah, I think that fits. But it's not even so much of just overstaying his welcome as this team has seen some ups, seen some downs and all that through Dino. But I think that, you know, in the words of Usher Raymond, they're going nowhere fast. They've reached their climax. This is all downhill from here at this point.
Well, when you put it that way, how could we think anything else other than? So let's talk about number 13 team here, who also seems to be finding themselves at the bottom. Virginia, despite a great upset against North Carolina, couldn't quite get it back together for this Georgia Tech game, which makes it more frustrating about that North Carolina loss because of just how bad we figured they would be. Will they find another win before the season's out? They've been officially eliminated from any type of postseason contention, but it's just pretty frustrating here that we're watching this team meander their way through the rest of the season.
You know, they're not worried about Tony Bennett anymore. They're not worried about Tony Musket. They're not worried about Tony Calandra. They're not worried about Tony Elliott. They're worried about Tony Bennett and company. Their basketball season's hit. Basketball season's here. Let's leave UVA alone because them boys are on the hardwood already. That's where they're
at. Well, you know, when you think about Virginia and their exit from the NCAA tournament last season, the men's program.
Alone, such a storied career. Such
a storied career for such a tragic ending. I don't know that they're really hype about basketball. I think they're sort of over the excitement only to fluster out in the postseason. So
you remember what happened last time they had an ugly upset in the first round. You remember what happened next year? They better get excited. They've
gotten embarrassed again.
They won a national championship the next year.
Yeah, but then they got embarrassed the year after that.
Well,
and the year after that.
Well, listen. In the words of Marvin Sapp, this is their season for grace and favor, because it's not on the field. That grace and favor is not extended on the field.
What rendition was that?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Okay.
When the Lord said make a joyful noise, he wasn't talking about me. He was not talking about me and my singing, and that's all right. I'm okay with that. With that.
Listen, do what you do. Okay? Do what you do. Jesus knows your key. All right.
That was my heart.
Let's talk about the fact that Pittsburgh sits here at number 12. The Pittsburgh Panthers, they had a rough one against Florida State. No surprise there, but I think what's been so surprising and yet disappointing is just the lack of giddy up for Pitt. And that quarter, like maybe they should stop the whole rotational thing when it comes to quarterbacks. Is there a lack of development there? Like there's questions that need to be answered.
Narduzzi, what happened? Because it's easy to blame all their struggles on the quarterback and say, oh, if they had better quarterback play, they'd be just fine. This is not just, oh, their quarterback is sucking it up and that's why they can't do anything. If you look at what their defense has been doing as of late, 58 points against Notre Dame. 58. I'm sorry, what? 38 against a Virginia Tech team that we very much so saw come crashing and burning back down in the earth. You can't allow it. You just can't have that.
Yeah, they're just not playing complete ball. I think, you talk about just people wanting seasons to be over. You're at week 10. You've done all you can, and knowing that you don't have a lot to play for certainly hurts the motivation. But if anything, you would think, like, let's get some tape out there. Let's get something to where we know that we're trying to get to the next level. So I think that's been a bit frustrating.
Absolutely.
And the fact that Florida State didn't even have their best offensive weapons is very telling for where Pitt is at as a unit.
It's a tough time. It's a tough time for Pitt right now. It very much so is.
Let's talk about number 11, Wake Forest, who is in desperate need of a quarterback. Amen. Sometimes you just got to go with what you got, but most times, if it ain't somebody good, you're just hoping for the best and praying that your defense can be sound. Hasn't quite worked out for the Demon Deacons, though.
I don't just want to blame it on the quarterback, though, because the Wake Forest offensive line has allowed the third most sacks in all of the Power Five. I'm sorry, what? Protect somebody, block somebody, touch somebody. What did the song say? Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Just touch it. Just pinch a defender, for Christ's sake. Do you hate your quarterback? Do you hate Mitch? Do you hate the freshman? What's going on, Wake Forest? Come on, baby. You got to be better.
Oh, my gosh. Was that a Deanna Warwick impersonation? I was just curious.
You know what? I'm done singing on this show. You bring hateration and holleration to this dancery. You bringing hateration and holleration. Mary said to keep the hateration and the holleration away from this dancery, and here you go bring it.
Maybe I should bring it a little bit harder when it comes to these singing things, but there's that. Wake Forest, one of those seasons you want back. It's definitely a let's try it again next year vibe. But let's talk about number 10 here on the board. It'll be our friends in the Commonwealth who aren't quite as bad as Virginia, but they aren't that great either.
They surprised us. They jumped up. We thought that this game could be competitive. And the Louisville and the boys said, y'all thought what? You thought wrong.
Come again?
You thought wrong. We own that. We own everything.
Now, did it say more about Louisville or less about Virginia Tech? And less about Virginia Tech or vice versa?
Yes. I think the answer is yes. I mean, I think that this game speaks to both how good Louisville is and how bad Virginia Tech is simultaneously.
But we don't think Virginia Tech is bad. We just think they are inconsistent.
I think that they are who they are. I mean, I think that you can delude yourself into believing that this Virginia Tech team is better than we thought. And, I have a tough time trying to say, hey, this is a really, really good Virginia Tech team. All of the time that we've talked about Virginia Tech, have we talked about a receiver or a tight end once on that offense?
And who were you supposed to be really high on this year?
Listen, I mean,
Ollie Jennings.
It's we're gonna put out a bolo for the brother. Be on the lookout.
Alibaba went missing.
Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout.
Abracadabra.
But he has struggled through some injuries and whatnot. He really has. In his defense, before he got hurt, he was lighting it up. But Ollie Jennings got a little bit of that Anthony Davis in him. No offense, brother.
God.
No offense, but he got a little bit of that Anthony Davis in him.
Why would you put that AD on anybody?
I didn't put it on him. He put it on him. Listen, I never say anything that I wouldn't be comfortable saying to these young men's faces. And with all due respect, we look at Anthony Davis and say, hey, he's great when he's on the court. He's great when he's healthy, but he's just not healthy. I think the exact same thing can be said for Ollie Jennings. He is a dominant force when he is healthy and rolling. When he's not, he's not.
That's fair. I'll give that to you. As I mentioned, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. We all know that when you're trying to get into some action, maybe you want to go see a movie, maybe you want to go see a concert, all the things. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. All you got to do is download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, to create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So rocking and rolling with Kenton Gibbs, talking through our Week 10 power rankings. Miami on deck, and we already got a live comment question here, wondering if TVD, Tyler Van Dyke, will start this week. We know that he's going through some things, but this one is a big one. This Florida State one is a huge one. Should he find a will and a way?
Is he a quarterback or is he a chef at a bakery? Because the man just creates more and more turnovers every single time you look it up. I mean, I was in the stands for that game, and Tyler Van Dyke almost threw a pick to me. The boy is struggling right now. He has a massive case of the yips. His and it's not like he has a talentless group of receivers. It's not like the schemes just aren't getting guys open or whatever the case may be. The running game just ain't there. The running game has carried this team. That without the running game last game, there is no offense against NC State. And yet and still, what did Tyler Van Dyke do? Every time they got the ball into the red zone, what did Tyler Van Dyke do? Every time you gave him the opportunity to go win the game, he said, hey, I like those guys in red a lot. I like those all red jerseys. That was why I didn't throw it to him before, because they were wearing white. And he didn't throw to the guys wearing white in this game either. We figured you out, Tyler. We know your scheme, brother. We got you.
I think that, beyond just that component, when you look at Miami, it's we don't even have the conversation of if they're back or not. It's more so, can we just get a complete season where, you look back and you say, hey, they gave it their the good old college best, the old college try. Yeah, I love a good analogy around here. Mm-hmm. Colloquialism, if you will. Yeah. And I think, Mario's days aren't numbered, but it certainly remains to be seen about the progress of this thing.
I'm just saying, everybody told me the one loss turns into two thing was crazy. And lo and behold, they're 1-3 through those 4 games. I said they could lose all 4. Looks like we know a little bit of ball here on Locked On. This is a tad bit of ball.
Well, they're saying that, he didn't lose the locker room and everyone's kumbaya. So.
And here's the thing. I don't think that he lost the locker room. I just think Tyler Van Dyke, I don't know what happened. This is like Space Jam when their Monstars must be somewhere with a very high-level college quarterback, because TVD is struggling to make the most basic of reads at the moment. So, more power to the man.
Maybe it's kind of like DJU from last season in his head, like doing the fundamentals is becoming maybe a little bit too much right now, because you get maybe he's a little hard on himself and getting in his own way, but remains to be seen. And it's not like he couldn't have a lightning game. So it could be one where he gets rid of the yips and he blasts off into spaceships and skyrockets to a good W. Don't know that it'll be against Florida State, but hey, crazier things have happened. Speaking of crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about our friends at Clemson. Okay.
Yeah. Uh-oh, did you mute yourself? Sounds like you muted yourself. Oh, we're struggling. Don't worry, y'all. A little bit of technical difficulties. We have a tech. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What do we talk about the singing? All right.
Wow. I'm trying to help you out because you muted yourself.
You done?
I'm finished then. I'm done. Go ahead.
So the Clemson Tigers decided they wanted to be Clemson of old and beat Notre Dame this week. Exciting times. But it's sort of like, okay, you did what we know you're supposed to do. I don't know if I feel overjoyed about it. That's why you're in the mix.
I do. If you like Clemson,
you're overjoyed.
If you listen, what does Stevie Wonder say? I'm not gonna sing it, right? Overwhelmed,
no, go ahead, sing
overloved,
it.
overjoyed. Okay. I mean, listen, that's a West Sider from Detroit. I ain't gonna mess up his song. But the reality is very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson is a great example of why the transitive property doesn't work in college, because Notre Dame whooped the wheels off NC State earlier this year. Clemson goes on to lose to NC State. Then Clemson goes on to whoop the wheels off Notre Dame. What is happening right now in college football, particularly the ACC and the para-ACC? You know who you are.
I feel like DJ is owed the biggest apology. I know he's not picking up but here's the thing: Dabo is known for getting a player to come back. We saw that with the kicker, right? Mm-hmm. So if he wanted to do a big hit, he certainly had time and opportunity. I just think he wrote him off. He wrote him off a little too soon. I think he should have stuck beside him.
I mean, it's very clear that DJ wasn't the problem, and we're gonna leave it at that. If DJ wasn't the problem there.
Let's talk about number 6 here on our power rankings. NC State. The Wolfpack, El Paquete de Lobos. They're doing all right. They're winning games that, for all intents and purposes, we didn't think they would win, but so that's a very busy sign.
The El Paquete de Lobos are going bowling, baby. They are going bowling. It has all the teams in the ACC that are currently bowl eligible on it. It has all the teams. See, take a look. Anywho, the reality is very simple. This is a team that, you know what? Say what you want about the offense. They got Kevin Concepcion over there. And
you better hope he catches
about that defense.
Butterfingers.
I better say something about the defense. Say something about them. Aiden White ain't got Butterfingers. Boykin ain't got Butterfingers. Peyton Wilson ain't got Butterfingers.
4 games to go. Let's hope he gets there.
Hey, listen, all I'm going to say is this. Congratulations to Dave Doran, who is now the winningest head coach in NC State history in terms of total wins. Congratulations. Big time win. The only team that he hadn't beaten in the ACC was Miami before this game. He breaks the record in beating Miami. Break out the turnover bone. 4 of them things up against TVD. Hey, get them they gots. Give them they props. This is an NC State team that many people thought wasn't going to win another game after Duke. Look at them. Look at them now.
Well, they had a lot going on, apparently, because no one else does. But they figured out ways to win. So we'll give them their little nod there. Number 5. North Carolina picks up a big win. Let me not even call it a big win, because that's lying. Picks up a good win.
That's nasty.
Picks up a good win against Campbell. This is the stretch that Mac was worried about. Yeah. This was a stretch. You got Duke. You got Clemson. You got NC State. This was the part where, we could have been undefeated to this point. I'm glad we got popped in the mouth. It is what it is. But this is going to be make or break for North Carolina, these next couple.
So it seems to me that you're saying that North Carolina had to beat the Camels to get over the hump. Anywho.
You worked on that all week, didn't you?
Tough crowd tonight. Tough crowd.
All night.
The reality for this North Carolina team is, as much as them and NC State hate each other, it's very clear that they want to be the antithesis of one another. One of them has an offense that just won't quit. They can put up points with anybody. But Lord knows they got that Caleb Williams, USC, Alex Grinch defense rolling over there. And then you factor that into a team that at the end of the day, they weren't in danger of going on a deep, long skid because of Campbell to break it up. But they very seriously do have potentially the best 3 teams that they're going to play all year coming up. So, hey, get right or you're going to get left real quick.
You're going to get left real quick. This is going to be a huge game, 8 o'clock, playing your rival. This is really going to set the
battle
tone
for the bell. It's the
for
battle
Clemson.
For the bell.
And then, you throw out the record books for the NC State game. But I think this is the one for North Carolina where I am going to be more so observing coaching styles and preparation, because it's 3rd-string quarterback you're playing against. And we know how North Carolina does so well against people they don't have film on. It's just a rally good time. Let's talk about our friends at FanDuel. As we know, we're in the betting action. College basketball, that's where you make all your money. I'm trying to tell you. If you have not yet, get in on the betting action. Maybe you like football. Maybe you're still locked in on NFL season. Whether you do your betting for any sport, make sure you do it with America's #1 Sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So spreads, player props, over-unders, you name it, they've got it. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Kenton Gibbs and I rocking and rolling, talking through a very interesting week 10, but pretty straightforward, if we should say. Number 4, Duke, which we can argue they're a little bit high, but they figure out ways to win. Big win, solid win against Wake Forest. Without Riley Leonard on third-string quarterback, I'm not feeling how high they are, but I'm going to let you have it.
I mean, we've talked about this before, and this is the reason why I warned everybody. We're going to say things that we've said in the past. 3 through 8 are all interchangeable, more or less. 3 through 8 are all like, whoever is good this week, whoever's bad this week. And Duke is a team that defense does special things. In this game, they gave up more to Wake Forest than they did in many other games where you're like, oh, they're actually playing a real offense. But the reality is they did enough to get the win. I know that much. They did enough to get the win, so that's all that matters.
That's how good teams become great, I suppose. I think that they have, like we just talked about North Carolina, a huge game in front of them as they prepare to take on their rival on the road. And have a lot to play for on the road to 10 wins, which I need for them to get.
Duke fans, show up for y'all boys. Stop. Show up for them boys, man. The people should not be having to beg y'all. Duke podcasters are begging y'all to show up for this football team. Show up. Fill that stadium. Wallace Wade ain't that big. Fill that stadium. Kenton is right down the street. It's going to be – I was getting there. Kenton is right down the street. They're going to have tickets. I guarantee you.
It's sold out. You crazy?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It is sold out.
Of course it is.
Oh my God.
Anywho.
What are you talking about? It is sold out.
Show up for your boys. Show up for
them. All right. Touch shoulder enough, but it really is sold out. All right. Mm-hmm. Number 3, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, they had to go here. Haynes King doing really good things. This is another one of those teams that is – they're right on the cusp of bowl eligibility, and we decided that you couldn't put them behind UNC after beating UNC. But, this is a team that they've got to finish out more games now because that 3 through 8, literally anybody can rise and fall very, very easily. Now, that 10, 11, 12, 13, yeah, they kind of down there. And 1 and 2 have separated themselves from the pack. But everybody else, stop playing.
Number 1 is guaranteed, but 2 through 14 is not guaranteed.
2 has not set. Louisville hasn't separated themselves from the pack.
They still have to play, so no.
I'm saying separated themselves from the pack in terms of they've been head and shoulders better than everybody else in the conference for the most part for the entirety of the season.
They got what by Pitt? What are you talking about?
I'm not fooling with you. I'm not fooling with you.
What are you talking about?
One loss.
A bad one. That's a bad loss.
Okay.
Do you have the same energy for North Carolina when the Virginia lost?
Oh, I'm sorry. Virginia's their only loss?
But Georgia Tech, who we just have at number 3. So what
because
do you say?
We had to put somebody there.
Don't say we had to. They're literally one game away from being in the ACC championship. Are you cuckoo or nuts? What are we talking about?
Sure, they're one game away from being in the ACC championship, but they've also shown, just like I said about Miami, they can trick off a game with the best of them.
So can Louisville. What are you talking about?
No, they can't. What game has Louisville had won that they lost this year? They did not have that Pitt game won, and they lost it. Pitt was the better team that day.
Okay. All right. So they didn't trick it off, but they got mollywopped by a team that doesn't have a quarterback.
I'm okay with 18 to 22-year-olds being inconsistent. I'm not okay with your head coach, who is a grown man, being unable to manage the clock and costing your team wins. I'm not okay with the inability to run the ball, crushing you down the stretch in multiple games, as opposed to one game where somebody shows up and is better. but the nerve of me for feeling that way. Anywho, number 2, Louisville. I believe that you've separated yourself from the pack. Slam Tanner, don't get mad at me. It's Candace. It's Candace over there. I always forget that this is me. It's Candace over there who doesn't believe. But I believe that this team has separated themselves from 3 through 8. I believe that they have. I believe that they've solidified themselves as like, hey, y'all better start getting ready for Florida State. Y'all better start getting ready for Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. I don't know. Is Johnny Wilson out for the season, or how long is he out for?
You know, I don't know that.
Okay. Well, y'all better
start not to gauge.
You better start preparing yourselves for Jordan Travis, Jared Verse, and all those guys. That's what you better get ready for. Okay, in my opinion, because they would have to have a complete and utter collapse like we have not seen in quite some time. They would have to put on a legendary, absolutely historic bedwetting performance in terms of, I believe they still have UVA on the schedule. And if they win that game, they're
in Louisville this week.
Okay, so yeah, they're in the ACC championship if they win that game, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, do what you got to do.
Now, Florida State is in this conversation. Obviously, they're going to ACC championship. We don't have to hold this long. What we do have to talk about is the fact that we skipped one. My numbers didn't quite add up and configure when it came to 3 through 8, 3 through 14. And we missed Boston College. So it really should be Boston College at number 3 and Georgia Tech at number 4. Yeah,
Boston College is 3 because Boston College has the second longest winning streak in the conference. Don't tell me about who they played. Tell me about what they've won, period. They won 5 games straight after starting 1-3. Did they start out terribly? Yes. Have they beaten world beaters during this stretch? No. But you know who those world beaters that they haven't or that they've beaten, those terrible teams they've beaten, you know what they've done during this time? They have beaten UNC in Virginia, and they have beaten pretty much everybody else in the conference. If you look through the 5 games that they've won straight, most of those teams have a win or two against some decent teams. So, I mean, what are we doing here in terms of, it doesn't matter. They beat bad teams. Oh, well, they beat who's in front of them, and that's what matters here.
So you're really high on Boston College?
I'm really high on.
Or you just think it's going to be Louisville and Florida State?
I think it's going to be Louisville and Florida State. But Boston College just keeps winning. They keep finding ways.
And what if Louisville tricks off this game against Virginia?
If Louisville tricks off this game against Virginia, then I'm going to tell you this. There is – y'all don't want to hear me. Y'all don't want to hear me. Y'all just want to dance. But I'm going to say this. Y'all go call me a homer. If Louisville tricks this one off, y'all could very well be seeing NC State in the ACC championship game, which would be just a shame. Just a crying shame. That would be just bedlam.
Why?
Because that is a team that people said were in a rebuilding year after the Duke game. Everybody's like, this is a rebuilding year for NC State. They're in rebuild mode. They've got the sophomore quarterback. Their best offensive weapon is a freshman. They're in rebuild mode. If that team ends up in the ACC championship.
They got to beat North Carolina first? Hell you talking about?
Oh, yeah. North Carolina's been really good against them lately. Man, the Pack have struggled with those guys.
Boy, it's the way your recency bias is crazy.
Recency bias is crazy. What do you mean?
We're not doing this today.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Let's give Florida State a little more love before we get out of here.
Again, they're balling. They've reached boogeyman status in the conference. They've reached that time where it's like, you see Florida State in the conference, go ahead and book your L. Go ahead, book it. Write it down. Accept it because they're that much better than everybody else. Even their weaknesses are better than what their opponents are bringing out. So, this is a really special Florida State team that I believe is going to the playoff. And please don't embarrass us when y'all go.
Well, they need to get healthy because I'm not playing with this whole week down 4 players and I don't want to hear it.
I agree. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, everybody got somebody hurt. Everybody. I don't care what nobody say. Everybody got somebody hurt. You show me a team without an important player hurt, and I'll show you a team that don't exist, okay? Because everybody has lost somebody by this time in the season. It does not matter who is in or out. All that matters is that you show up. If we waited who was hurt in this thing, Syracuse might be number 3 or 4. But it doesn't matter. It's about who's on the field, and it's about what they do. The best ability is availability, and that's just what it is at this point.
Why couldn't Riley have my ankle, Lord?
I don't think that would have went well for him either.
Oh, we got jokes tonight, boys. Singing and jokes. It's been a rousing good time for everybody involved.
Street saying you got a little cankle action going on. Yeah, I mean,
cankles,
little cankles. Look, I'm joking. You know what I mean?
Baby, one thing about me, I ain't never had a kank or a cold, so don't play with me.
All right,
pick somebody else. Not too much.
Okay. Not too much on your ankles. Not too much on your ankles.
I talk about the ashy knuckles, so not too much.
I mean, you can talk about the ashy knuckles, but we gonna talk about that leg going straight up and down. We gonna talk about the cankle now.
I don't have a cankle. I didn't like my job, I would stick my foot up here right now. But I ain't.
We don't need that call from David Locke. We don't need that call. We don't need that call.
I do have the space heaters on the way, so thank you, Broly 003. We appreciate y'all for joining us as usual. Please come back tomorrow as we talk through more comments, but we give you a little basketball action, right? We know this is basketball season. We've had a couple openers that have been a little too close for comfort. So
Louisville sacrificed their basketball team. They said we don't want we only gonna be good at one. We are not gonna be good at both. I hate it for them. Kenny got them boys in pain.
For Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs. Until next time.